All right, good morning. This feels like a real honest and true Raincouver kind of morning. It's a little cloudy and gray outside my window, so couldn't be happier than to be having a conversation with someone who, to me, really kind of epitomizes a sunshiny attitude. So, thank you so much. I've got Sharaya on the phone or on the web chat with me today. So, say hello.
Hi guys, nice to see you. I'm Logan.
Yeah, right. Someone asked me, like, why don't you do this as a podcast? And I was like, one, I didn't put that much forethought into this. Two, I like talking on the phone is kind of a weird thing for me. I'm a really big eye contact kind of person. So I like seeing the person's face when I talk to them. Yeah, outside of that, I hadn't thought about it too much more than that. So I think this has been working, at least for me. I'm pretty satisfied by these. But thank you for joining me today, trying to expand a little bit and talk about different things. When I think about colleagues that I respect and admire and have, lots to offer and do great work, you definitely popped into my head as being someone that I wanted to connect with. So thank you for agreeing to do this.
Thanks for having me.
If you had to introduce yourself, we always talk about elevator speech. If you had to introduce yourself at this time, because, a month ago, you might have introduced yourself differently. What would you say you're up to these days? What would you say is, your focus, your passion, what you're doing with yourself? How would you introduce yourself?
Ooh, I would say I am a fitness enthusiast. A fitness junkie who loves to help inspire and motivate other people to live a healthy lifestyle and thrive in that. So I just want people to see their potential and live that potential and get there through fitness, because it really is very impactful on your life, very impactful.
Yeah, awesome. So for those who might not know you, you come by way of being a personal trainer, by getting into club management, by being part of a bigger organization and sort of being able to grow and develop your career in that sense. And so you've got a broader perspective than just being a trainer of clients. By the time you start managing other trainers of clients, you see things maybe with a little bit of a different view. So I thought it'd be really cool to have this conversation sort of from the range of your experience. We're going to kick things off, though, because it's season 2, and that's really exciting, with our Magic Minute, just to kind of cover some foolish basics. So are you ready for the Magic Minute?
I think I'm ready.
Okay, awesome. Let's kick it off. Where would you say you are from?
Oh, and now I want to say White Rock because I've been here for 5 years, but I'm originally from Abbotsford.
Okay, there we go. And what was your high school mascot?
An eagle.
Nice. I like
Matches spreads. I remember that.
That's good. That's a few years ago. That's awesome.
It was.
If you had to pick if you had to pick a somewhat well-known movie that you would want to be the star in because you loved that movie so much, what would you pick?
Oh my gosh, that's hard. I want to be Tomb Raider, maybe. Lara Croft is a badass.
Nice.
That'd be sweet. And you get to do a ton of stunts and stuff.
Yeah, so. I like it. The one where she does the bungee workout in her giant mezzanine living room. Yeah, I could see
not?
that. Badass. Excellent. All right.
Sounds fun.
What is your favorite animal?
Oh, that's hard. I don't even know. One of my coworkers always told me my spirit animal is a squirrel, so maybe a squirrel.
Okay, I like it. Humble, smart. That's good. I dig it. Okay,
maybe a little stupid, but
hey, you know what?
Squirrels aren't the most intelligent. Squirrels are not the most intelligent, but that's okay.
Love it. Okay,
going off the top of my head.
You're totally fair. Chopsticks or fork?
Depends what I'm eating, but chopsticks if it makes sense.
Okay.
I'm gonna eat sushi with chopsticks for sure. It would be really weird to stab a piece of sushi with a fork.
Fair enough. Umbrella or raincoat?
Raincoat, for sure.
Suntan lotion or sunglasses?
Sunglasses.
Excellent. What's the coolest place you've ever traveled to?
Ooh. Probably Indonesia. We were actually on the island of Bali and on the North Shore though, in a place called Lombok, and we did a really cool wreck dive there. That was probably like my favorite. I really liked the little community we were in.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. And what is your favorite food?
Ooh, tacos probably. I like Mexican food. I really like Mexican food.
Nice. Awesome. All right. And last one, what is your favorite muscle or exercise to train?
Glutes for sure.
Excellent. All
Definitely
right.
my favorite.
Cool. Nice work. All right. Magic minute in the bag.
Do I
All
gotta
right.
ask you now the magic minute questions? I just kidding.
I mean, nobody's asked to do so far. I'd be game. I don't know.
No, I want to know your answers now.
All right. Well, give me a few that you remember. I'll see what comes into my head.
Okay, what's your favorite animal?
For sure, a peregrine falcon.
Okay.
That's why that
okay.
guy's there.
Fair. What's your favorite food?
Man, you know what? Like, I want to get all fancy, but I gotta just say pizza. Like, it's just for real the thing where I'm like, oh, pizza. Like, I just get the most excited about it when it's pizza night. So,
what's
that's
your
gonna be
pizza
fancy.
shop you go to? What pizza shop do you go to?
You know what? I've got like a customized version of the Panago Chicken Club pizza. That's
Okay.
pretty damn great.
All right, you'll have to hit us all up with that later. Send us the custom order. Okay, what was your high school mascot?
We were the Lions, but you know what's cooler than that? In my elementary school, we were the Griffins. That was pretty great.
That's good. That's really good. I was an arrow in elementary school, which I thought was kind of silly. I was a piece of wood, like a little tiny
arrow.
Yeah, like an arrow. Yeah, I was like, oh, cool, I'm a twig. Cool.
Okay, but like flip that around and go like all Mockingjay on it.
Okay, true.
Yeah.
Then that's not bad then when you put it in that perspective. Fair. Very fair.
All right.
Okay, there is one more I remember. Sunglasses or sunscreen?
Oh yeah. So for me, totally sunscreen. I mean, I would wear sunglasses too, but like if you know Allie, she gets like kind of African American dark within like 19 minutes of us being in a hot place. And I get bright red sitting in the shade covered in a towel wearing 60. Yeah. So for me, it's definitely sunscreen. My Irish roots.
That's fair.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was fun. Thank you for that.
You're so welcome.
All right, so let's get into our conversation today. I want to kind of kick it off by I always think someone's origin story is interesting. Call me a bit of a superhero geek, but I always want to know what makes people get into personal training. So if you can tell us a little bit about how that became what you do. How did you become a trainer in the first place?
So after high school, I took like a gap year and I started traveling and I gained quite a bit of weight. And through high school, like I was an athlete, like played lots of sports. I was always very fit. But then I gained like over 20 pounds and I gained over 20 pounds in like 6.5 months. Like it was fast. And then after when I came home, I was like so like ashamed. I felt like I couldn't even go out to see people because I was like, I can't believe what I have like done to myself. Didn't fit any of my clothes. So that's when I realized, okay, I need to like make a change. So I started figuring out how to work out because I just always played sports, but I didn't know how to like work out. So I just started self-learning, doing workouts at home, bought myself some little dumbbells, learned about nutrition, how to eat properly. I lost the weight and I really, really enjoyed the process and really just kind of kept going. And then I was really enjoying it. And then once I got married, my husband was like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't really know. And he kind of like pushed me to like, well, you really love fitness. Why don't you become a personal trainer? And when I first took my personal training course, I took it because I was like, no, I just want to like, I want to learn about fitness more. Like, I don't want to be a trainer. I don't want to do that. I just like, I'm doing it for my own knowledge. And because at the beginning, I feel like a lot of people feel like they're not experienced enough to be a trainer. So, and that's how I felt. I was like, I don't know nearly enough. So I'll just take it for my own knowledge, which I did. And I actually ended up getting a job, really fluke that I got a job, but I got a job at Steve Nash at that point after, and started training people, even though I was really nervous and scared. And I actually learned that I actually had a lot to offer people, even though I wasn't as experienced as I would like to be. But that's how you get more experience, is you just get out there and you start doing it. So that is kind of how I became a trainer. And that's kind of my overall fitness journey.
Cool. I love it. And so, we talk a little bit about, the need to gain experience, and the fact that you know the science, and what you have to do is build a comfort level around communicating with people the way they need to be communicated with. Everybody's a little bit different. Every client comes to you with different beliefs, different experience, different, even just willingness to change. Some of them, I can totally, tick off a bunch of people in my mind that wanted to tell me how to do my job, to help them, like, listen, you're going to be my trainer, but this is what you're going to do for me. And sometimes that made sense. And sometimes it was like, really, that's not what's going to get you where you want to go. And then other people are just super like, tell me whatever and I'll do anything you say, right? So like you more have to gain experience on like the human side, because at the end of the day, when you look back, you start realizing science is science, calories in, calories out, manage stress, hormone profile, set up consistent habits. You know what I mean? Like it almost seems easy when you look at it that way, but then the messy, emotional, human stuff comes into play. And I think more than anything, at least for me, being a psychology geek, I think that becomes where the real kind of the real challenges, and really the real interesting part. So, talk a little bit about that. Like, you got into the industry, you were young, you were female, you lacked a little bit of self-confidence. You had a little bit of, well, this is how I lost 20 pounds, but you've obviously expanded and evolved to be able to have a ton of confidence, work with lots of different types of people. So, kind of walk us through that a little bit. What was it like actually kind of like getting into the role and starting to feel like you belonged there and earned the accolades?
Oh, totally. Well, in the beginning, like I can remember my first client to this day. And I remember like thinking back, I definitely gave her a lot of good information and knowledge and that kind of stuff. Did I probably coach her the best? No, because I didn't have the experience of coaching different types of people, because every single person is so different. And you have to learn to be a really good listener, and learn that there are different types of people that you need to talk to kind of differently. And like, because like you said, some people you will tell them exactly what to do and they'll just do it. Other people you have to educate them first so they understand why, and then tell them what to do so they understand why you're telling them to do it. So it's, in the beginning, it was like challenging. I remember like being so nervous all the time, like going to see clients and stuff. But at the end of the day, I really realized like a big part of personal training is just being, being there for like knowledge, like the science, that like safety tool, right? Like for your client, but the relationship as well. Like a lot of people just need somebody to listen and talk about what they're feeling, like what they're truly feeling, because a lot of times they can't talk to like their family members about it, or even their friends. They're too like nervous or scared to say like how they actually feel. But your clients will open up to you about that, and you can talk to them and coach them on it. Because even a lot of times I felt so like the same way that a lot of my clients felt at some point. Like I've been there. I've been to the place where like I didn't want to go out. Like I stayed at home for like 2 months. I was working on like getting fit because I was too embarrassed to go out. So I would say like in the beginning, it takes a lot of courage for you to start training people, because you are so nervous. But once you kind of get through the mud and realize like you have a lot to offer to tons and tons of people, then it gets a lot easier over time, and you just get better and better every day, and you just got to be willing to learn. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, and we're gonna keep expanding on it a little bit. I think one of the things that's always really helpful when you start doing something, like let's say you take on a client, one of the things that I suggest to the students is ask questions, listen, seek to understand what they want from you, do your best to give them that, and then ask for feedback.
Yeah.
So when you're new, your whole world is asking questions, even though it's kind of ironic. You go to a certification, you learn a bunch of stuff. Your client is coming to you because you know things. It's ironic that the first good chunk of time, you just have to live in the questions. What do you want? What gets in the way? How can I help you? What do you need from me? How does that feel? How can we make it better? Hey, how was the session today? How could I be better? What did you like? What would you like me to do less of? So you live in a world of questions. And then as you start to get positive answers, you start realizing like, okay, I'm doing okay. So if I said to you, hey, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate our session today? If you give me a 7, I'm gonna feel pretty okay about that. But then if I say, hey, how could I make it a 9? And then you
Exactly.
tell me like, you know, I love, you know, I love that, you know, we can talk about stuff, but sometimes I feel like I'm getting into my workout groove and then we talk a little bit too much and I'm like losing my heart rate a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, cool. That's great feedback. I'm going to do better at that next time. So as you ask questions and get concrete answers, as you're getting feedback that what you're doing is meeting or exceeding someone's expectations, it's like when you're young, you're moldable. And so if you ask questions, then you can mold yourself to be what your clients are telling you they want. And so the whole idea of maybe having a little bit of a lack of confidence or you know, feeling a little bit nervous is that you're more likely to be looking for that support or that feedback or coaching or mentorship or whatever. And so if you approach the job as I know things, but I'm humble and I'm here to learn, and I'm going to learn from every single one of my clients, then you will. And then that'll start to give you the confidence as they say, no, hey, I really like working with you. I lost 10 pounds, but I want to keep going. Right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you touched on something in there that I want to go back to. You talked about listening. You talked about being someone that your client can share with. I think when you're in a fitness lifestyle, you don't really realize how much of your life supports you being in fitness. So like, for example, your husband, my partner, they both work out. So when you're with someone who works out, it's easier to work out. If you want to go to the gym and your partner's like, no, just stay home and watch a movie with me, it's hard to go, right? So by the time you get into a fitness lifestyle, you kind of don't even realize how many environmental triggers set you up for success.
Yeah.
And what we sometimes then don't realize is coming to the gym might be one of the only environmental triggers that our clients have. And so being able to empathize and share with them, I totally get it. I've been in the same place. It helps them create sort of a different lifestyle. So I want to go back to that because I think one of the things that I sort of recognize about you is you have a really unique ability to share your story, but not burden people with it. So you can be vulnerable. You can make them feel a little bit more comfortable about their own experience. To a certain extent, you normalize what they're feeling, but you've moved past it. So you're speaking from a stronger, more empowered place. You have some confidence about it. And I think that's the key. So specifically what I want to touch on right now is a lot of our students, when we get to the nutrition section, they're always really interested and excited in that section. They want to learn lots. And more in the last year or so, I've noticed that people are asking questions like, I kind of feel like I have some issues with food. I'm not really sure about, you know, this food logging thing, or I really want to help my roommate, but like, she's definitely got like, you know, some issues. We're always so worried about our scope of practice. We want to help someone. We don't want to make it worse. We don't want to, you know, create bigger issues with them around food. So if you can share with us a little bit, you know, maybe your experience, what you see. We want to try to unwind a little bit, sort of what the stigma is around body image, food issues, right? What's inside of our scope and what's not. So take us through that a little bit, and kind of share what your perspective is on that subject.
Oh, totally. Because there is a lot of stuff that's in our scope of practice, but then a whole lot more that is out of our scope of practice. So when I always say, like, when in doubt, just like refer out, like refer to somebody who is specialized. Even sometimes if your client like has like talked to you about how they actually have problems like binge eating or they're anorexic or whatever they're working on or dealing with, then like those things, like refer out right away. If you're at the point with that client and you feel comfortable saying like, hey, like I really think that maybe it'd be a good idea. Like, have you ever thought about possibly seeing somebody for this? And that's when you can send them to counselors, like our good friend Brian, like stuff like that, or going to see a dietitian or a holistic nutritionist, something of the sort. And then for like, you know, the basic things where maybe your client hasn't really recognized they have a problem, or maybe you see the problem is just starting to develop. Then like those are like the times where I start to like open up more about my story, because I've definitely gone through periods of like wouldn't even eat anything unhealthy, wouldn't even touch it. And then they've gone through periods of like binge eating. Like I've competed in bodybuilding. I know what that's all about. Like it's a challenge, that's for sure. I've gone through quite a few different things. Never, yeah, certain ones, other ones, no. But I think it's always really important to know what's in your scope, what's not in your scope, and how to support your client the best way possible. And a lot of times that's just asking them, like, how can I support you in this? You know, and why do you feel like these, ask more questions. Why do you feel like you have this habit? When you like went to and like ate like the 12 cookies, like what were you feeling? Like what happened before that? You know, just asking like what is going through their mind, what are they feeling? You're not telling them what to do, you're just letting them talk about it and up about it so they can start to think about why are these patterns happening to them. Because that's what I had to do when I was going through a lot of that stuff, is asking like, why do I feel like this? Well, where is the root cause? Because you're not just doing it to just do it. Like you're doing it because there's something behind it. So number one, when in doubt, refer out. And then number two, ask questions and relate and support. Like those are like my biggest things, is just helping coach people through like finding a healthy balance between food and life. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, coming from you, I think you have, some experience. You have the ability to say, hey, at least this is what works for me, or this is what I've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you a question. If I'm a trainer and I'm observing in my clients some challenges, some shame, some sort of being secretive, or
Mm-hmm.
when someone starts to talk about something and they veer and they go somewhere else instead, like whenever you have trouble talking about something, that's probably the thing that's worth talking about.
Yeah.
So we start seeing distraction techniques, and we start seeing avoidance, and we start seeing even just a change in demeanor when someone first signs up with us and they're really excited, and then we start to look at change, and we're starting to get them to lean into things that maybe they're a little bit uncomfortable about. If they kind of shut down, or if they change how they're responding to us, that's sort of the moment where where we can potentially open up the conversation a little bit. So here's my question for you. If I'm a trainer and I'm seeing this happen, and I want to ask questions because I want to figure
Mm-hmm.
out if I can help you take a look at this, and see if we need some additional support, or see if, by realizing that it's happening, that you might, make some changes. Is that what you want? Is that what I should do? Like, should I hold space? Should I ask questions? Or is that uncomfortable? Do I run the risk of my client just, they don't show up anymore, or they complain about me? Like what do you think when it comes to that
Well,
moment?
I think it's really case by case. And it really depends on the person and the relationship you have, right? Because if you feel like it's appropriate, you're on that level with that client, then you're gonna be able to ask and have them open up to you about it, especially if you are humble and vulnerable and you've like shared your own experiences, right? And like the struggles you've had. So like when you're on that level, I think the client is very, very open to opening up about it and how they're feeling so that you can help dissect it a little bit for them. And then maybe that's the chance where you have to say like, hey, actually, I think you should probably see somebody about this. And like I've had other clients who've done the same thing, and they've gone and seen X or Y or Z and seen a huge change. And then there's other times where you're gonna have a client and you know that if you ask them, they're gonna turn and run. You know, they're not at that point yet. They're not at the point yet to open up about it. Um, and like and that's okay. You just gotta, I think you just have to keep working with them. You have to keep working with them, keep asking the right questions, not direct questions, but the right questions. And just keep being vulnerable with them until they can open up. Does that kind of make sense? And like, how do you feel about it? Because that's how I would deal with most of my clients until the point where they're able to open up about it.
Yeah, well, no, this is exactly what I wanted to talk about, and we're, again, the overall caveat of this is, if in doubt, refer out. We have to just
Mm-hmm.
understand that some of us as trainers do not have the skills, the empathy, the vulnerability. Like, we can't do it, and that's okay. That's just where you are on your own personal development. Others
Mm-hmm.
of us will have a little bit more experience, a roommate, a sister, ourselves, or we're just a little bit better at asking questions. That's just a little bit more of a natural, innate skill that we have. So it's okay to identify your strengths versus your weaknesses and play to your strengths. I would say, as an example, if you're somebody who notices some stuff is going on, but you don't know what to do about it, and you get the sense that you're not there with your client, one of the things you could do is talk to a teammate, talk to a manager, connect with somebody else where you can unload your questions and doubts about the client in a private, respectful way, and maybe get some support. So, I might come and talk to you, or I might say to Brian, hey man, I've got a question about a client of mine. And it's okay to not know what your client needs and seek some additional assistance. But at the same time, and again, we're doing this as a slightly theoretical exercise, but when it comes to, I don't know, I mean, the fitness industry has come a long way, but we've still got this reputation of being aesthetic and shallow. And we've still got people who maybe we've got a personal trainer who's a driver, and that's their style of communication. And we've got a client who's an amiable, and the communication doesn't happen properly. And unfortunately that happens. I wouldn't say fitness is the only place where that happens. It happens everywhere there's humans.
Yeah.
But if we were sort of looking to have maybe a few more skills in the toolbox around this kind of an area, I'll give you a few examples. If we're going to ask questions to a client where we're sort of trying to open up a little bit and see if there's an opportunity, one of the things that I can't even tell you where I got it from, but one of the things that comes up to me is I want to ask questions about how you're feeling, your energy level. Are you able to go to sleep easily? Do you find that your mind is racing and it keeps you up when you wake up in the morning? Do you feel rested? Do you feel calm? Do you feel stressed? How much energy do you feel like you have as you're doing your workouts? When we get to the end of the workout, do you feel better? Do you feel worse? You can be tired but feel better versus you can be tired and wrecked and feel disgusting. I might ask questions about what types of foods do you really enjoy, or when you eat, what does it look like? Are you watching TV? Are you with friends? Are you alone? What does the environment around your food intake look like? To me, those are some of the questions that I would want to ask versus, are you logging your food properly? How many grams of protein did you get? Did you eat all of your calories? Are you taking your nutrient, right? There's sort of this element of exploratory questions versus maybe more criterion-based questions. And if we're unsure, we want to lean into that exploratory side a little bit.
100%. I think the exploratory side is huge. When you're direct, like you said, it scares people off and they feel like you're kind of attacking them, even if you're not and you actually don't mean it that way at all. And it's out of actual concern. A lot of times it's just, you gotta go more the exploratory route and ask, what did you have for breakfast today? How is your energy today? Oh, I didn't actually eat breakfast today. Okay, why didn't you eat breakfast today? Tell me what happened? Were you really busy this morning? Your alarm go off? Did you sleep in? What were the circumstances around that? And then, oh yeah, I set my alarm, but then I just pressed snooze 12 times, right? Oh, well, actually I used to do that too. And then actually I put my alarm clock across the room so that I have to get out of bed, or maybe, okay, well, if that happens all the time, then maybe why don't you just have a protein shake ready in the morning? Just slam a protein shake really quick on your way out. You just have it ready, and it's something easy and simple. And it's just working on those kind of little habits so that you find out why are these things happening instead of just telling them this is how you need to do it. And you just got to eat this much protein, and you just got to eat this many carbs, and you got to do 100 minutes of cardio.
Well, and what I like about your story too is you say you kind of stayed home for 2 months. You learned how to work out. You did some things at home, and so what that means to me is you took on changes that you were willing to make because nobody was telling you what to do. And so maybe that's even something that we can take a note from is, maybe one of the most important questions that we can ask is, hey, what are you willing to change? What do you want to work on? How do you want to feel? How do you want this to go? So there's a difference between a client telling me how to do my job and me doing my job by asking questions and then figuring out how to support you in what you want to do. Right now, if someone says to me, what do you want to do in regards to nutrition? Oh, I heard really great things about this cabbage soup diet. My uncle did it. He lost 40 pounds before this, surgery that he had. So I'm definitely going to ask him for that. And what I want you to do is give me HIIT workouts, so that like every day I can be doing like high intensity interval training. That's what I want. Okay, well, I got to have a little bit of a filter that goes food intake, energy output. Wow, that's really not balanced. So let's
Yeah,
maybe educate a little bit around that. But
totally.
yeah, if we can ask questions about what they're willing to do, what they feel comfortable doing, and get behind whatever their ideas are, as long as they're safe, we're automatically going to be in better alignment with our client than if
Totally.
we're
And
not
what's,
asking them.
yeah, and like what's going to be sustainable long term for them? Like, are you going to be able to do this forever? Can you eat
Yeah.
cabbage soup forever and do high intensity interval training every day for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
I don't think so. But tell me, like in the beginning, what is going to be sustainable for you, like long term? How many
Yeah.
days a week can you work out? Like, be realistic about this, you know?
Yeah.
What kind of habits can you change? Because if you're not realistic in the beginning, you're not going to be seeing any results by the end. Or you'll see results for the first 3 weeks where you're like, yeah, I can do this. And then your motivation wears off.
And then we get
Yeah.
a yo-yo effect, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the last thing you want. Like, you don't want to be messing around with the yo-yo.
Exactly. All right. So the next thing that I want to know is you started off working out at home. You got a certification to just learn for yourself. You achieved the weight loss that you wanted. You ended up in fitness. How did you get into wanting to compete in the sport of bodybuilding? How did you go from, being an athlete to now sort of moving into this sport, which is its own unique thing? What was the journey like in regards to that?
Well, I've always been pretty competitive, so that's definitely part of it. And I liked I like having a goal, like something I'm working towards. I really enjoy that. But working out at home, like had like kind of like baby weights and was doing like a lot of high intensity interval training, which kind of only gets you so far. So like I lost the weight. Did I have a lot of muscle or like muscle tone? Probably not. So then like going to work at the gym, I started learning from a lot of other trainers how important it is to actually like do resistance training, like properly, like progressive overload, that kind of stuff. And that's when I realized like, wow, like I'm actually getting a lot more toned and I'm building some muscle. Like I really like the way I'm looking. And then a lot of my coworkers were competitors. So it was just kind of like a natural transition, like, oh, you know what? Like I think I'm gonna try this out. Like I'm really enjoying lifting weights. I'm loving like eating like this, like tracking my food. I was really enjoying it. And so I decided I would try it out because I wanted to compete and I wanted to win. So that's what I did. So I did 2 competitions and I really, really enjoyed it. I loved realizing how much you're capable of. Sometimes like you think I think I'm not capable of something, and to realize how much more you actually are capable of. Like I had a coach, so somebody telling me exactly what to do, and there was like times I'm like, oh my gosh, like I had to do what now? And he was like, I don't think I can do it. And then realizing, wow, like like I was able to go way farther than I thought I could. Like I could push myself to way farther, like the limits that like otherwise I probably would have stopped at like 50% when I still had another 50% to go. Does that kind of make sense? So
Yeah, love it.
I really enjoyed like that, like learning how much more I'm capable of.
Yeah. So then let's kind of put the two topics together, where we look at sort of, wanting to have a healthy relationship with food and exercise, wanting to be able to enjoy the process, not just be super focused on the destination, but then, put that into perspective against something like preparing for a show, which is very structured, right?
Extremely.
And I see people fail in a couple of ways. I see them not give themselves enough time to prepare.
Yeah.
They kind of just like they get lit up with this idea, like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And it's usually that like their friend is doing it or they saw something on, you know what I mean? Like they get this flash of inspiration. They're like, I'm gonna do it. And then if they don't give themselves enough time to prepare, then they end up kind of having to do crazy, unsustainable things to get there. So that's one. And then the second thing I see is that people prepare and do a good job getting in, but with kind of an edge of desperation, and they can't take the time to get out.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of like shit explodes on the other side.
Yeah.
And then it takes them forever to get back to some kind of balance. So when we look at sort of the two, I think you do a great job of representing both. You represent balance and a healthy focus on fitness, food, life, the whole deal. But then at the same time, you've you've been incredibly successful in the sport. You've placed first. You do it the right way. You take a long time to get in. You take an equally respectful amount of time to your body to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about that a little bit. Like, what does it take to do the bodybuilding sport well? What have you learned from your 2 shows? What would you say to people that are maybe considering wanting to do something like this, where maybe they've been, struggling a little bit with finding balance on the other side? What would you say?
Well, I would say first off, if you have kind of like problems, or you think you might have problems with like food, and like eating properly, normally, you feel guilty eating, like that kind of stuff. If you have a problem with that right now, I would say competing is probably not for you at this point in your life. Because before, like if I would have done that, like competing would not have been for me like a year before I competed, for sure. Like because of where I was at with like my mental health with food in mind. So you really have to get to the point where you are completely okay with food and don't really have a lot of food issues to compete properly, I would say. So I would say I really had to work on my relationship with food before I started to compete. And then because a lot of people, like you said, like they can do it either of those ways, like not sustainable, not the greatest way, because you're going to kind of screw yourself over on the other side. So you really do have to be very, very conscientious about those things. So yeah, because it took me a long time to be able to like do it, and even in competing, like it was challenging at times, especially afterwards. It's like your body is like craving food. Like you have steadily been in a calorie deficit for like 4 months, so your body is like, yeah, like I just want to eat. Like your whole like being is telling you just eat food, eat a lot of food, and you have to be mentally like, no, I can't, because you will eat a ton of food and your metabolism and body has like slowed everything down. You eat, you're going to gain weight pretty darn fast. And that's why you have to correctly reverse diet out of after your competition, or you will end up in a really bad place for your mental health as well as your like metabolic health as well. So I would say I would not consider competing unless you're in a pretty good place, because it'll be really, really hard in going into your competition and coming out of your competition. So I think you really, if you're going to consider competing, really think about like why are you doing this? If it's because you want to just have a nice body, it might not be, and you have a little bit of problems with food, it probably is not the right thing to be doing. If obviously having nice abs at the end of that is like really fun, like don't get me wrong, it's great, really, really enjoy it, but if that's like your only like driving factor, it's probably not a great idea. My driving factor was like, I wanted to see what I was capable of. I'm competitive, like I just like want to win. So like that was like really, really fun for me. But if you have any kind of like problems, I would say probably stay away. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, and you know what? Not even my question so much as just an opinion or a perspective
Yeah.
that I think deserves a bit of a platform and deserves to be heard, because
Yeah.
we live in such a fast-paced, visual,
Very fast-paced.
like we're inundated by what we see, and that's new, right? It's been slowly ramping up, and I think we don't really realize how much we're inundated by. It's great to have ways to connect and influence and inspire, and here we are sitting on a web chat, and we're posting workout videos for people. Like it's great to be able to connect, but we just have to be aware that there's a lot out there. So when you, depending on what your Instagram feed looks like, pictures, they say pictures tell 1,000 words or whatever, but man, words are important sometimes. Context is important, and having asking some questions and getting a bigger backstory and having a plan, those things are all really important. So if we get really tied to the instant gratification of the picture, and we just start going, I want that, and we don't build an understanding and a plan around it, then I think that's where potentially we get frustrated, and we don't necessarily have fail to plan, plan to fail kind of, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's worth understanding that I would even hesitate a guess. I've never competed, but I used to work with a lot of figure competitors. I would tell you, at least from my own experience, that almost everybody that did a good job of it, it's not that they didn't enjoy the physical side of it, but that wasn't their main reason for doing it. Like you said, they were competitors. They wanted to challenge themselves. They wanted to, honestly, a lot of them just fell in love with the process. And the sort of the discipline of following that process translated to other things in their lives. It made them better in their jobs. It made them better in their relationships. They paid attention more, right? Like they sort of woke up and realized that like all the little details matter, because that's essentially what prep is all about. But if you turn around and apply that to your life, right? Every rep counts. You weigh your food. Like if you apply that to other things in your life, I think there's some pretty interesting parallels there. And so it's important to understand and address that really is where the heart and soul of the sport is not just what you look like the day you step on stage, right? So yeah, I think it's helpful for people to be able to, hear that from someone who's been through it. I think you're both in the industry and you're also an athlete in the sense of enjoying that sport. So that's really helpful. So let's just let's find a way to like put a cap on it and find some bullet points. If you had to think about, say you're having a conversation with a trainer that's new, they've just joined your team, maybe what they're asking you about is, how do I help my clients with their nutrition? How do I navigate, what I can talk about versus what I can't? Maybe how do I educate myself so that I can know more? How do I gain more experience so that I can really coach and help? What types of advice would you give to a newer trainer that's wanting to, be able to offer that in how they do their service to their clients? What would some advice be for new trainers that you might want to give?
Yeah, for sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. One of my AirPods just died, so I just want to make sure you can hear me.
Good.
So first off, I would say get more education. If like that's something that really interests you, you want to be able to help people with nutrition. I've taken a couple of the smaller precision nutrition courses, and I've really, really enjoyed kind of their guidelines, like even a lot of their stuff even helped me thinking about like, okay, like when you're eating, like how many times are you chewing your food? Are you distracted? Those kinds of things. Like those are like little things that I work on with all my clients now. Is like, okay, like what are you doing when you're eating your lunch? Oh, like I'm on my phone. And then I have they have a really big problem trying to like, they're trying not to eat as much as like they're always feeling like they just want to eat more and more and more. I'm like, okay, let's try not eating distracted. Those little things are like so helpful. So taking little courses that give you those little tools will be very, very helpful, because not all of us can go to school for however many years it is. What is it? 6 years to become a dietitian? Is it 6 years?
I don't even know.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So like not all of us can become dietitians and be able to give people like, eat 100 grams of chicken and 25 grams of rice and, right? So you have to find other ways to coach people into eating the way you want them to. Does that kind of make sense? So I would say education first. If you're wanting to help people a little bit more with their nutrition, and there's tons of resources out there. I'm sure you can give people a lot. I can give people a lot of resources to check out if they want to like learn more about nutrition. And then I would say second, I would ask them about like what is their food journey been themselves. Like what's their journey with this too, so that I can coach them on like how does your journey and how can it relate to other people? Because chances are a lot of people have gone through the same kind of like food journey that you've gone through or something similar. So always relate back to your story and how you have gone through, or even other clients. Also, you don't name your clients, but like say I've worked with other people who have had this same problem, that kind of stuff. So, and then always ask for help, ask for another opinion. Like you said, ask me, ask you, ask Brian for other, clarifications if you have questions about a client. Does that kind of make sense? So that's what I would tell a new trainer. Get a little more education and ask more questions, for sure.
Perfect. And I would just sort of round that out by saying, make sure that what you learn is reputable, evidence-based, peer-reviewed. There's so much access to information, but when we say get educated, I'm not saying go Google the carnivore diet. I'm saying even research what it is you're going to commit to learning and make sure that it's the right type of resource. Make sure that it fits your scope of ability. Make sure that it's going to support both you and the types of clients you want to work with, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, the more what we do for ourselves ties to how we coach our clients, the better, the more familiar we are with what we're doing. I think we have more credibility, more confidence, more solutions, more resources, right? So we sort of all land somewhere on the spectrum of fitness services by kind of finding what we love and what we're good at. And then we build more, you know, we build more comfort in that area. We can do a better job of coaching people where we're comfortable, right?
Totally.
Yeah. And so then I guess the last thing that I would throw in, and it's something I'm curious about what you think. When you said when you are working with a newer trainer, you want to learn what their food journey is, I would just expand that a little bit by saying like what, you know, what do we mean when we say that? Well, think about what you have eaten in your lifestyle, how you learned to eat that. Like, did your mom cook from scratch when you were a kid? Or did you have a working mom who did a lot of, like, you know, buy the roast chicken and the bag of salad type thing? Like, think about how you learned how to eat, and you probably have different stages. So I'll give you an example. My mom cooked almost everything from scratch. Every now and again, we went to McDonald's or we went to A&W and we got a teen burger, and it was like the biggest treat in the world. Oh my God. But like, I have to identify even that fast food does have it spikes a little bit of a reward, like trigger for me, because, you know, maybe I got a good grade, or I, you know, like did a good job playing a game. We have to sort of look at when, you know, what the lessons we learned, the values we have. You know, did your parents teach you how to cook? Were you a part of food preparation? When you went to university or when you moved out on your own, what happened? Did you know how to cook? Did you eat out all the time? Did you eat ramen noodles out of a styrofoam cup for a couple of years? And so even just making a record of your own experience with food, and really, you know, seeking to understand, looking at, you know, if I were to say to you, you know, give me 3 things you believe about food, well, what would you say, and where do those come from? Even doing that for yourself starts to open your eyes to maybe what your clients need to learn about themselves as well, right? And so sometimes when we're a trainer working with a client around food, sometimes it's that they have to be educated. Like, do you know how much sugar there is in a can of Coke? Like, there can be a layer of education that's really important. Second to that, there can be the importance of helping them build new abilities, right? You know, I've definitely worked with clients where they know they should eat lean cuts of meat and more vegetables, but they like don't own a frying pan and they've never turned on their stove. So then if I'm like, you have to eat chicken and broccoli, then they're like, okay, so now when I go to this restaurant that I always order from, instead of getting one, I'll get another. Making chicken at home is very different than, you know, getting Hunter chicken at Milestones or whatever, right? Like,
extremely.
Yeah. So understanding the ability that our client has in being able to execute on the recommendations that we want to give them. And it's funny, if you don't ask those questions and you don't think about those kind of things, you can completely miss what they need from you and where they're at. So using your own experience, using a deep dive into your own experiences, values, beliefs, abilities about food, I think is a really good exercise, because you'll learn stuff and you'll find that you're surprised by some of the things that you learn about your own life. I'll give you a quick example, and it like hit me like a sledgehammer. It was so funny. My mom was cooked from home, super healthy. I was healthy and had, like, you know, multi-grain bread and lots of vegetables, and you know, I was lucky to be raised that way. And I literally remember being in the airport on my way to university. I'm like free, like I will not see my family until Christmas break. It's August and I will not see them until December. So I'm like on my own. I'm super excited. My mom gave me, you know, a little bit of money to get some food in the airport. And I went to get a sandwich. Like, I'm heading off to university to go play soccer. I'm not going to eat a bunch of shit. I'm like, okay, I'll have a sandwich, you know, that'll be good. And I'm standing in line and I order my roast beef sandwich, and the lady says, which kind of bread do you want? You know, white or brown? I swear to God, I was going to say white. And then like my upbringing just shoved like brown out my mouth. And I literally like was hit by a ton of bricks. I was like, this was my first opportunity to
See,
like
white
be my
bread.
own person and like do the thing I wanted to do. And I couldn't even help it. I said brown bread. And so that was like a real big wake up call for me, in the sense that like we're programmed, and if our program isn't working, and if it's not supporting our health and our goals, man, we're going to have to work really hard to understand that that programming is there, and it's going to take longer to make an adjustment. At the same time, though, if that program is there and we've just kind of gone, we've gone rogue a little bit, it's actually going to be a little bit easier to get back to what we know and what we're capable of. So encourage you guys to go through that. I'm really glad, Sharaya, that you mentioned that, because I think there's a ton of value in that experience. So that's really cool.
No, I agree.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So if people want to follow, I know you're doing more on social media now. I know you're putting out more resources. I think I've seen you put a few things out that look really great. So if people want to find you, what's the best way for them to connect and be able to learn more from you?
You can follow me on my Instagram at Sharaya Poulin, or you can even email me, sharayapoulin@gmail.com. Nice and easy for everybody. So you can hit me up there. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to know, I am a nice little resource, especially if you're a new trainer and you have just some questions, hit me up. I can help you out.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll make sure that I put those contact points in the video notes. And yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you jumping on and sharing your story and sharing some wisdom. It's always really great to get, different perspectives and show people just how wide the opportunity is in the fitness industry in terms of all the different things that we do. So thank you very much to you. Really appreciate it. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. We'll keep in touch and we'll post some good things, and stay well, stay healthy. You and I we were joking around about the fact that we're both introverts, so we're pretty happy in this whole situation. So keep doing what you're doing. Awesome.
Oh, sweet. Thanks, Logan.
Thanks, Sharaya.
Okay.